everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 7, so I'm going to be talking about the 2022 new book releases that I can't believe I haven't read yet. Toy with the idea of, instead of doing it where I talk about new releases that I haven't read, I talk about all of the new releases that I have indeed read, but I decided to stick with this one. Maybe I'll try and throw that in a later Bookmas video in place of something else. I'm not really sure, but the way that I see it is I don't get that much opportunity during Bookmas. Like, most of it I'm talking about books that I have already read, so I felt like I would have plenty of time to talk about those other books, but I don't have that much time where I'm talking about books that I haven't read yet. So I'm really excited to talk about these books today. Like, the fact of the matter is the year is too short. There is not enough time to do like all the reading that I'm wanting to do. So some books end up falling through the cracks, and especially this year with how busy it was, it definitely, like, a lot of these I really am so excited for and wish I could have gotten to read them, but it just didn't pan out that way. But it's something to look forward to, right? So before I get into the video, don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I'm going to be putting up a new video every single day for the entire month of December, so you don't want to miss any of those. And without further ado, let's get into it. First up is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. Casey McQuiston is, of course, the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, and a recent favorite of mine, One Last Stop. I have put off this one because I wanted to read One Last Stop first. There's something about, like, when I have all of the books that an author has come out with, I feel really bad if I end up reading like a more recent one when I have an older one on my TBR, if that makes any sense at all. So that was the situation here. I was super interested in this one, but I had to read One Last Stop first, and I'm so glad that I did because it just has like ignited my love of Casey McQuiston, which I already knew existed, but even more so, it's like reignited. So this is a YA novel by Casey McQuiston. This is their first YA novel, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Paper Towns, to be honest. It's essentially about a girl who she's about to graduate, and Shara Wheeler is this girl that, like, she doesn't really know, and then Shara Wheeler ends up kissing her and then completely disappearing. Like, it's just this whole thing. So she's trying to find her, obviously. She's confused, and I think it's going to be sort of a mystery story. I'm just going into it like I know it's Casey McQuiston, so I know that it's definitely one that I'm wanting to read, and I will probably love it. Next, I can't believe that I haven't read An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X. Arpan yet. I read An Astonishing Color of After. This was the author's debut novel a few years ago and was just completely blown away by it. But this one, it came out like in the midst of me being super busy and all over the place, so it kind of flew under the radar for me. My pre-order copies showed up. I was like, awesome, can't wait to get to it, and then it just sat on my shelf, as tends to happen, to be entirely honest. But it is one I am so excited for. I don't know if it's like strictly, oh, okay, it is. I wasn't sure if it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling, like, actually, or if it was just kind of a Romeo and Juliet-esque story, but it does say on the back, Romeo and Juliet meets Chinese mythology. So it's definitely a little bit different than the first book that I read by this author, which dealt a lot with grief and mental health and all of that. So it was more on the contemporary side, but kind of like a magical realism, because there was a little bit of a magical element to it. But this one I think is going to be magical all around, and yeah, I definitely, like, I just need to read this one very soon. Next is Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. So I have talked about this book quite a bit recently because I was like, around Halloween, around fall, perfect time to read it, and I just ended up reading everything else before I got the chance to get to this one. So it will be like top of TBR for 2023 because I think it just sounds like it's gonna be so good and so hilarious. This is essentially about like a true crime addict who has sworn off dating, kind of like unintentionally, but because she loves true crime so much, she just suspects everyone is like out to get her, and when a new neighbor ends up moving in, she thinks he's a serial killer. So that's obviously going to be like a little bit of a wrench in the plans and the development of the relationship, maybe. You know, you can see how that might be be a problem. So I think this is gonna be really funny, but also could be like a really cute romance at the same time, and it's definitely one that I have had my eye on. Next is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. I'm so sad that I haven't read this book yet because Sabaa Tahir is such an incredible writer. She wrote the An Ember in the Ashes trilogy, and she also had like a course that I was taking on writing. It was really great, and this is a contemporary novel by her, but it also kind of has a historical element because you're following the different generations of this family, and I know it's based on like her own personal heritage and everything, like it's a fictional story, but it does deal with her culture, so I think this is just going to be such a beautiful story, probably really hard to read as well. You're following the like back then generation and then the present generation, and you're kind of seeing like how hard they worked for what the character has now. It honestly has the potential to be so incredible, and it's just one that I've been waiting for like the right time to read it, because I know that when I do, it's going to completely blow me away. Next up is another book that I've kind of been waiting for the right time to read it, and that is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the latest by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who I'm sure needs no introduction, the author of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, and most recently before this one, Malibu Rising. Now this is actually following a character that you were first introduced to in Malibu Rising, Carrie Soto. Carrie Soto is a tennis player, but she is considered kind of a has-been, and she is trying to have this epic comeback. And Taylor Jenkins Reid, like more recently, I think she used to write kind of more romance stories and more like domestic, if you will, sort of things, but now she's been writing about celebrities a lot. I mean, I'm sure you all know that. In this book, we are dealing with a sports celebrity, obviously, and Carrie Soto seemed like such a fascinating character that was introduced in Malibu Rising that I want to know more about her. I want to know her story and everything, and now I have it in my hands, and it's just one that I have not been able to get to, but I'm really hoping to very, very soon. Next is Always Jane by Jen Bennett. This is the latest contemporary novel by Jen Bennett. I do have The Lady Rogue, which I have had for so long and talked about reading for so long. It's like pathetic at this point, but that's another one that I definitely need to get to. But this one came out, I believe it was in early 2022, and I've just had so much fun with her contemporary books so far, so I don't know why I didn't end up picking this one up this year. This one is a romance between like a chauffeur and, or not, she's not actually the chauffeur, it's the chauffeur's daughter, so she's grown up like around wealthy LA elite and all of that. It's a longtime crush on the oldest son of like this really prevalent family, but it's also long distance, so that is very intriguing. I don't know why I haven't picked this one up yet, but I definitely need to. Next is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. This one, on the other hand, I do know why I haven't picked up yet. This is another book in the Secret Shanghai universe, and I finally recently read These Violent Delights, so I feel like I can get to this one soon. I do need to read the sequel to These Violent Delights, and then I will be able to get to this one, but it is on the horizon. Like, we are closer than we ever have been before. Chloe Gong's concepts just sound so fascinating, and like this one is no exception. In this book, you're getting the story of Rosalind, and I believe that it's an As You Like It retelling, so like super excited for that. These Violent Delights was a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it was so fascinating. Like, it's about a world where it's in Shanghai. This one is set in the 30s, and the first one is in the 1920s, and you're following the like rival gangs. It's just so fascinating and so cool, and yeah, I can't wait for this one. Next is the Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. Aiden Thomas is the author of Cemetery Boys and also Lost in the Neverwoods. I didn't really like Lost in the Neverwoods so much, but I did love Cemetery Boys, and I am super excited for this one. Like, this cover alone is completely stunning. This is based in Mexican mythology, and it is following a character who is like a demigod, and there's this whole race that they have to be a part of. It just seems super fascinating. Next is Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. So this is a gothic love story, and once again, it's one that you have definitely seen on my TBR quite a bit recently, because I was like, gothic love story, perfect for fall, and I didn't end up getting to it. Like, I read a ton in November, as you guys probably know by now, but this one, it just, I don't know why. I have to be in the right mood, you know? I am such a mood reader, and I can't explain what the mood is, because I'll be looking at a book and it's like this one where I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to read that soon. But then when it comes time for me to pick a new book to read, I'm like, I don't know what I want to read. And then I just need to get a vibe from a book, you know? So I just never got the vibe from this one, but it does seem so so intriguing, and that cover is totally pulling me in as well. It's about a girl who like wants to be a surgeon, and then a guy who, I forget what his deal is. It is a resurrection man, and he's trying to survive in a city where it's too easy to die. And then, like I said, a lady who wants to be a surgeon more than she wants to marry. And it is a gothic tale of romance and adventure between the two of them. Next is Darkroom Etiquette by Robin Rowe. Robin Rowe is the author of A List of Cages, which I read, it must have been a few years ago now, but this is her latest book. I loved A List of Cages. It completely just blew me away. And Darkroom Etiquette is kind of along the same lines, where it's dealing with abuse and it's like a darker contemporary story, but I'm sure it's going to be very impactful, just like A List of Cages was. So I am definitely looking forward to reading this one, but it is one I'm going to have to be like in the right mindset for, because I know it will be a really difficult read as well. And honestly, I could have gone on forever and ever and ever about like different 2022 releases that I wish that I had read, and I can't believe that I haven't read yet, but I have one more that I wanted to talk about. I decided to, you know, end it on a reasonable number, but that last one is Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. This is an adult romance about fake dating. It's essentially about a girl who ends up finding herself in like a fake relationship with a guy that all of her friends and everyone have always warned her about. And I just have seen this everywhere. I have seen so many great reviews, and it has made this be like top of my radar, but it's just one, once again, I haven't picked up yet, but it definitely is one that I'm gonna need to get to like almost immediately in 2023. Okay, so those are all the new releases that I haven't had the chance to get to yet this year, but definitely will be ones that I'm trying to read next year, and hopefully I'll be able to make a decent dent in this list. It's so hard to keep up with all the new releases because I read like such a vast variety of books that there's always so many that are coming out, but then I'm also trying to catch up on ones that I haven't read, like balancing backlist and the new, and it is just a struggle. So we're gonna get there, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's Bookmas video. Tomorrow for Bookmas Day 8, I'm going to be talking about what Goodreads thinks are like the best books that I have read this year. Essentially, like I did a video like this past year on my channel where I looked at all the books that I've read and looked at what were the highest average rated on Goodreads and talked about those. So I'm going to be doing that, but specifically with just the books that I've read in 2022. Just come tomorrow and you will understand what is happening. But thank you guys once again so much for watching, and I will see you in another new video tomorrow. Bye!